and totally redeem yourself.
Here, might want to unmute myself. Hey, everybody. Welcome into the Skol Purple Podcast Fan Express line. Hopefully, we'll be getting some of the guys in here in just a little bit. But the Vikings have done it again. They make us work for our wins, make us work for watching them this year, I guess is one way to put it. But they get the win, and a big win over the Dolphins in the Heat. They beat the Heat, and Grandizer, appreciate it. Congrats to us Vikings fans. Thank you. Appreciate you getting in here already, Grandizer, man. So the Vikings, as we already mentioned, they get the win. 20. Let's see, what was the final score? Let me see. 24-16, the final score. The Vikings get the win over the Dolphins. It was not a pretty game. The offense looked lethargic, maybe is a good way to put it for a lot of the game, but it was not great. It was not great. But you know what? We're 5-1, and I finally got a pick wrong, which I'm glad about. Finally got a pick wrong. I'm 5-1 in my Vikings picks now, so very good victory for the Vikings over the Dolphins. It was, like I said, not pretty, but wins are wins. And looks like we've got Daniel here going to join me in a moment. Grandizer, Carson, only a Dolphins fan here. I know Grandizer, you're really a Vikings fan. You got to be after that game, right? Like, the Vikings did not look great, and you guys still could not beat us. I know you had two different quarterbacks in the game again, which I'm sure is frustrating for you guys, but it's just the way the NFL goes with quarterbacks and the injury situation. But let's go ahead and bring in Daniel here. Daniel, how you feeling, man? 5-1, not the prettiest of victories. That's kind of been the theme pretty much ever since the week 1 game. It's been pretty ugly, but 5-1 is 5-1.
Well, and that's what we got to go off of. I mean, you got to look at the positives. Last year, we weren't winning these types of games, these one-score games. We're 4-0 this year on one-score games. So we're getting victories, but yeah, there's definitely still a lot of question marks. If the Dolphins are healthy, if they have Tua, heck, if even Skylar Thompson stays healthy in that game. I mean, he was kind of torching us right away. So if he's in that game the whole time, we might have seen a different outcome. The defense got the big turnovers. I got some big sacks, but really today they just didn't look at all there. The offense looked shaky outside of the 3 touchdown drives. So there's still a lot of question marks, but like you said, we got the W, and that's what you got to be happy about.
Yeah, that's for sure. It would have been interesting had Ed Donatel not brought any pressure, how this game would have turned out, because when they brought some pressure, and Zadarius Smith also got some clean looks at him, but when they brought pressure, Teddy did not look comfortable back there, and you can't really blame him with already some of the offensive line struggles that they have, but then you bring another guy in there, and it didn't look good for Teddy at times. But when he had time, you saw him throw dimes down the field to Gesicki and Hill, and he made some plays by creating time as well, but thankfully the blitz, when they did blitz, it worked. And then, of course, the rip at the end by Jalen Waddle fumbling the ball, really probably the difference in this game. Let's bring Tony in here. Tony, how are you doing, man? I know you got a lot going on right now, but how'd you feel about that game? It was a win, right?
Yeah, it was. I want to see how many times this season we can start the show off by saying a win is a win is a win, right? It feels like we're a broken record every Sunday here, but it very much so is that way. I felt like the score was not. It didn't reflect the way the game actually looked, and certainly as you know, Carson, I was. A bit on and off watching the game today, unfortunately. Some of it was watching without sound. I did get to watch most of it, though. But it was ugly. I mean, there were certainly moments where it felt like the offense couldn't do anything. There were certainly moments where it felt like the defense we were turning into Swiss cheese. But then there were moments where the offense looked like it clicked. I guess I just don't know. It'd be interesting to hear, and I certainly understand that we're going to get the team-friendly responses, but I'd be interested to hear what some of the press conference talk is like from people like Cousins and Kevin O'Connell, because I wonder if the heat started to play a little bit of a factor today with maybe just some exhaustion. I did like the fact that it seemed like when we needed to turn it on, we did. So I certainly take that as a big positive for today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We got the horn going. Big, as much as I could critique this game, like, and I really do want to critique it, but man, it is good to be 5-1, right? Like, I mean, like we said, it's not the most electrifying 5-1 that maybe we were hoping for, and it wasn't the like great offensive performance we were hoping for today. But again, a win is a win. A win is a win. We're going to talk about that till the day we die, I think, on this show. But and as Vikings fans, but and the Packers did lose today too.
Yep.
All right. That calls for the horn. That calls for the horn. So we got all the horns going here, but
yeah,
man,
from what I understand,
2 in a row to the New York teams for Green Bay. How about that?
Yeah, from what I understand, and maybe you guys caught a little more than I did. I wasn't able to pay as much attention to football earlier today, but from what's the sounds of it, Green Bay did not look good today at all, I guess.
No.
And I don't know if I think the narrative
Robert Saleh's got his number.
Well, the narrative we heard last week after they lost to the Giants was, well, the Giants they're not that bad. They're going to surprise a lot of people. And while that might still be true, yeah, that's kind of my point. Is it the same narrative with the Jets we're going to roll with this
every
week?
time they lose, it's going to be, well, they're not that bad.
Yeah. So did you guys catch any of that? Any thoughts more on the Green Bay game? Because I did kind of miss most of what happened there.
Daniel.
So I didn't get to see it, but I got one of my good friends is a Packer fan, unfortunately. But he was just trashing it the whole time. He's messaging us, basically complaining the whole time. And normally when Packers fans grumble, it's because, the world is against them and whatever, all this nonsense. But we obviously know that that's not the case. Refs are normally on their side and everything like that. But I think it basically, my 1-year-old's trying to join the show. But he said just the offense isn't there. He said they're not getting creative anymore, which they don't really have those playmakers. Losing Devontae Adams, they have Aaron Jones still, but their wide receiver core is still torn apart pretty heavily. So he said that they can't get creative. It's a pretty vanilla offense, and against anyone who's got any sort of defense, that's gonna be to their benefit because they don't have to worry about anything. They're gonna have to go with 2 wide receivers out, maybe a tight end. Focus on those receivers and then try and shut down Aaron Jones. That makes it pretty easy for any defense to try and stop.
Yeah.
And apparently Sauce Gardner left the field with a fan's cheese head after the Jets won. And then Alan Lazard knocked it off.
Oh, that's good.
So that's basically the equivalent of somebody doing the Skol chant if they score on the Vikings or the gritty.
Yeah, Gesicki pulled out the gritty there. But
that was bad.
Touchdown.
I
think he knew it was almost over at that point, but he tried to get us with a little spice on that one.
Yeah.
And Thielen's gritty wasn't good either. They just need to let Jefferson do that, man. Like I just don't think some of these guys should be doing it, but maybe that's a conversation for another day. But yeah.
I do think it's funny that that dance now has become so iconic and associated with Jefferson that it seems like every team we play, that's their little, taunt, is that they're going to do the gritty, like, oh yeah, you guys think you're pretty cool. And at least we're 5-1. Like, that's the thing. Like, you can do whatever dance you want as long as we're winning the game at the end of the day. I'm all right. And so far, it doesn't seem like it's worked too well, because it seems like almost every game I see him pull out the mocking of the gritty, we end up being victorious. So I just say keep doing it.
That's right. That's right. Oh man, it does. I don't know. This does make it sweeter when the Packers lose. Man, come on. We gotta enjoy this. Now we're up 2.5 games now in the division. 2.5.
Yeah,
Man,
2.5 and undefeated in division. That's a big deal.
It is. That is a big deal, just like Ron Burgundy. But
right.
Gesicki did the gritty. Someone told him, "Hey, we are losing. Stop that." Oh, and then one other thing, Jonathan Vilma, man, he's something else. First of all, let me just say that. That's probably the best way to describe it, without getting too down on him. But and then he had to say, after some Vikings player on defense said to one of his other teammates, he's like, "This game is not over," with an expletive added. He added that. And I think everybody heard that. I don't know if you guys were listening close enough, but I heard that the F-bomb go over the air, and that was not the only time that's happened. But yeah, that was kind of funny. And Jonathan Vilma just went out of his way, of course, to say Irv Smith is really good. What other things can we say? Jonathan Vilma. But you know what is interesting? Like, the Dolphins had not been really good at generating much pressure this season, and somehow they were able to do that today. And I think part of it was the blitz. And welcome back, 2021, Garrett Bradbury. He has returned from the grave, unfortunately, but that was not good.
Yeah, it seemed like he was especially struggling with the items that we were noticing last year, which was a lot of those kind of bull rush type maneuvers where they'd send a guy either up the middle or any sort of delayed blitz, but basically just right in his face, not like they're trying to move him around or anything. And, it is what it is. You're going to see defenses attack, players for weaknesses they've shown this week or weaknesses they've shown, last year. And, I definitely think that the offensive line had a rougher showing today, certainly, than we'd like to see. And again, if I want to make excuses for them, because I think they've played by and large better this year, maybe there was some heat factor going in there.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't think we faced, any elite defensive lines, but I mean, you look at New Orleans. I mean, New Orleans has a good front too, and we didn't look as weak against New Orleans as we did today. So you know what? It happens. Every phase is going to have an off game. Obviously, I'm happy it came in a game that we won, so we can be happy about that. But yeah, I agree. Definitely looked weaker today than I've seen so far this year.
Yeah. Offensively, defensively, I guess. Where do you guys want to go next? With any points, anything sticking out to you that you want to talk about quick?
I would say offensively,
ahead,
it's things like getting the running game going. I mean, it still pretty much was non-existent. Dalvin was held in check almost 100% until that 53-yard touchdown. I mean, outside of that, he was a non-factor today, like almost completely zero.
One second.
Go ahead.
I gotta play this.
And totally redeem yourself.
As you said that, I had to play that. Dalvin totally redeeming himself right there.
Well, and I don't think, and I mean, even on that breakaway run, on runs like that in the past, he normally accelerates once he gets into the open field. We didn't see that. So I still am holding by when I joined you guys a couple weeks ago. He doesn't have that explosive factor that he's known for. When he gets that open field, normally he hits the gap and boom, nobody's catching him. If you give him 10 more yards of field, he might have gotten caught. by whoever it was for the Dolphins that was coming up from behind him. So, he's just lost his step there. He doesn't have that explosiveness. I'd like to see them still get more tricky than runs right up the middle with him, with his, cut ability. Get him on the outside, try to get him around to tackle, and make a one-on-one play with a safety or a corner. He can still win those battles. But I think Dalvin still really needs to get going. Jefferson looked pretty unhappy today. I mean, to me, I don't know that he's actually unhappy because you still see him smiling on the sidelines and stuff, but his body language looks down. He still had over 100 yards, I think, today. So it's still nice to have him produce the way he did. Thielen got a touchdown. Irv Smith, like you said, was mentioned by Vilma early about he's a young up-and-coming player, can create space, and we haven't seen any of that this year. He got the touchdown, but that was, it was a good sell by him. It was good for him to get in the end zone, but he's still, to me, a non-factor. Johnny Munt, he caught, 3 balls today for -1 yards. He didn't do anything. So there's still a lot of question marks. I mean, it wasn't a clean game. I mean, you look at the score on paper, we should have won that thing by 3 touchdowns because of their injuries, because of their third-string quarterback being in. It should have been a walkthrough game, and it really wasn't. And they still had a pretty good chance to come back at the end and tie.
Yeah. Boy, is that the identification of the last 4 weeks. We should not have won this game, or we almost lost this game, or we should have won this game by 3 scores. Like, when is it gonna stop? Can we just be in a comfortable game? I don't know if we're ever gonna get that this season, honestly, as much as I hate to admit
and
that.
on that Bynum interception, at that point, my guard went down basically. I went, that's the ball game. We're going to win it from here. But then we throw a nothing burger up there as far as offense, give the ball back to them. They score a touchdown. And then it's just like, why do you do this? What? And we looked, like you mentioned earlier, Swiss cheese.
Why are you the way that you are?
Yeah. I mean, we went into prevent defense and they just chunked 15 yards at a time to Tyreek Hill. They basically had 2 wide receivers because Jalen Waddle was injured. And we couldn't stop those 2 guys to save our life.
Shell defense for the win, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, on our Friday episode, Carson, I want to retract my statement. Yes, you should start Mike Gesicki this week in fantasy.
Well, I didn't. I had him on my bench. So listen. I was dealing with 2 fantasy teams where I had Chris Olave, and one of them I got him out of the game. The other one I did not. For whatever reason, I thought I got him out of the game. I thought I put somebody else in, and by the time game time rolled around to like 5 minutes after noon, I was like, I better check and see. And then I saw that he was still in there. I was like, no. And I had Gesicki on my bench with 25 points or whatever it is.
2 tutties.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, when we met, for some context here, on Friday's episode, I did a bit of a breakdown on just some of the stats that we were seeing from both teams offensively and defensively. And I correctly stated, per the data, that the Vikings are looking pretty susceptible against tight ends. One of the probably lower teams, or I should say, one of the worst teams when it comes to defending tight ends. So Carson said, hey, so what you're saying is we should probably start Mike Gesicki. And then I get to put my foot in my mouth now because of the time I said, don't do it. He's been terrible this year. And we had his coming out party today. So at least it came in a loss. But I'm sorry, everyone, for anyone who listened to me. Just listen to the data. Follow the data, not the things that come out of my mouth.
Yeah. I do agree with this. My dad talking here in the comments. It is kind of frustrating to be pissed at the same time as a loss, but if they keep doing this, which I still don't think this is sustainable. Eventually somebody is not going to fumble there at the end, and Jalen Waddle, is going to score the Jalen Waddle or Stephon Diggs, and whoever play, I'm just thinking of people we play down the line, like they're going to eventually score, right? Like it's going to have to be, we're going to have to come back, or it might be too late by that time. So it is frustrating from that perspective. I was going to show the the video of the cheesehead here from Sauce Gardner. Oh man, that's funny. Like the fact, first of all, that he had one on, and then Alan Lazard comes. I don't know how far he came all the way across the field to take that off.
That's good though. I mean, if
Yeah.
you're a Packer fan, you at least like to see that they showed up for something today.
My goodness. And it was in Lambeau too.
Yeah.
First loss. I think they had a 15-game win streak at home.
Well,
I'm telling you though, Robert Saleh has Aaron Rodgers' number. Like he's had some good defensive performances against him in San Francisco before, and I think we saw that again today here. And then Zach Wilson and the Jets offense did just enough to be able to get the win. Breece Hall, the Iowa State guy, big performance for him. As much as I am not an Iowa State fan, I'm an Iowa fan, but you know what? Breece Hall never beat Iowa, so that's okay. He can be successful. He's obviously not on the team this year, but I do want to say though, Iowa State, it seems like every year they either lose to Iowa and then they go on and win most of their games, or they beat Iowa and then they don't go and win any games after that almost, which has been the case this year. So, but anyways, moving back to the Vikings. Greg Joseph, do we need to start having a conversation about Greg Joseph a little bit more, or do you think it's just too soon and you think the extra points are just the way of the league now, where there are going to be some missed extra points? It just seems like he's a little off right now. I know he made one field goal, but just I don't know. I'm still. He's not going to win. He's not going to have his best season of his career, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and unless I missed something, I didn't get to see the missed extra point, so I don't know how bad it was. So you guys can.
It wasn't too bad.
Not bad.
It wasn't too bad. Yeah, so I think that there is an element to the fact that after they moved the extra points back, there was obviously inviting a bit more parity there. The leagues wanted to get away from them being as automatic as they were. So I think there's a little bit of that to be expected. What obviously I want to see from him, which is I certainly understand is the kind of straight answer here that everybody's going to give, is I just want to see improvement. I'd like to see him bounce back. What I don't want to see is for this to linger, because that's where the Vikings fan will start to creep back up in me, where I'm like, okay, buddy, like don't make me have to do like a seance to get rid of the Blair Walsh demons that are circling the team, because that's essentially what we started to see with Walsh. Walsh played so well with us for so long, and I'm not even saying that Joseph has the pedigree that Walsh had when he was really playing well. I just mean that it seemed like things tended to snowball, and that's how things tend to work with kickers. It's like they miss one here, they miss one there, and then it's this feeling that starts to linger where they start to lose confidence. So that's what I don't want to have happen. I think we've got a better coaching staff in place. I think they're going to encourage him. They're going to be rah, hey, here we go. Because at the end of the day, we're still winning games. So it's a lot easier to be like, put that in the back of your mind. Don't worry about it. We're going to get better. So I have confidence that he's going to be able to put some of these little weird things behind him and we'll be fine. Obviously, if we continue to see little things here and there, I might get a little nervous, but I don't know. That might be partly just my fandom.
Nervous watching a Vikings kicker? Never.
Oh my goodness! If we could just be done with that, that'd be great.
But I'm on your side. I don't think we jump to conclusions. We did that once before, and look at Daniel Carlson now. We can't cut throats and move on, because I think he's solid. Every time we've asked him to step up to the plate, he has and produced. It is little things like this that eventually, like we keep saying, the Vikings just in general, you keep doing enough little things wrong, eventually it's going to bite you. It hasn't yet, so you just keep going with what you got, because there's no better kicker just on the sideline waiting for a call. Nobody's watching the game going, Vikes, call me up, I'll be there on Tuesday. Like, that's not going to happen. So I think Joseph has proven himself enough that you just got to keep rolling with him.
And I do love what the Vikings have done with Joseph this year. They haven't been like Mike Zimmer and just chew the kicker out and just like try to be a Debbie Downer and try and not look at him, or just like hate him or whatever. It seemed like Mike Zimmer would throw lasers at the back of their head or something, or had lasers from his eyeballs going into their back of their head as kickers with Daniel Carlson, the 3 misses in Green Bay, of course. But yeah, I think the way that they're treating him, like okay, hey man, I know you're going to bounce back. Like, you're going to go back out there and you're going to make this next kick. So I think that is the right mindset to have. Whether or not that actually works, that might be a whole nother story, but I would rather have that than my kicker getting cussed out by my coach, because I don't think that works, especially with kickers, because then they're just going to lose their confidence altogether. You got to keep on showing confidence, letting them go out there and do their thing. And I don't think Joseph necessarily 100% solves the Vikings kicking problems going forward, but I do think I agree with you, Daniel, where you're not going to find anybody better right now on the sideline for somebody, unless somebody gets cut or something that, for whatever dumb reason, gets cut, or unless you're trading at the trade deadline for Justin Tucker, if the Ravens somehow fall out of contention here in the next couple weeks, but that's probably not going to happen.
And we probably couldn't
either
afford
one
him. He's getting a coin in 7 over in Baltimore. They're paying him money.
That's right.
So.
Yeah, that we'd have to get some Rob Brzezinski cap magic to get him going. But
hey, I have a question for you guys.
Go for it.
Did you guys hear the news, the Aaron Rodgers news this week?
No, do tell.
Start spreading the news.
So supposedly,
New York.
Supposedly,
Jets. Sorry.
Yeah, supposedly the Jets are better than everyone. No, I'm just kidding. No, it was it was that I guess, again, supposedly, team sources have confirmed that Rodgers has said this is his last year. He will be retiring at the end of the season. Yeah. So I don't know. I didn't believe it at first, and then I read into it, and I mean, still, who knows?
Right.
And how many years did we hear that it was Brady's last year? But I kind of feel like Rodgers is a little bit of a different egg than Brady. I think Rodgers probably looks at the game like it's almost like he's sticking it to the game a little bit when he wants to hang it up, like I'm done, like kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know. There certainly might be some validity to it. I certainly, as a Vikings fan, say bring on the Jordan Love era. I am totally in favor of that. But I didn't know if you guys had heard about it or what your thoughts were on that.
Just Carson, I just wanted to. The Packers fans, especially our age, Carson, don't understand, and Tony probably, I guess I don't know your age, you're probably pretty similar, don't understand what it's like to have mediocre quarterbacking. So right. I cannot wait until Rodgers does decide to hang it up, and they do have the Jordan Love era, or I'm sure they're going to try and draft a third-round rookie and whatever, but they just don't understand what it's really like. And I cannot wait until the Packers are bottom feeders of this division, because hopefully we stay near the top. Detroit's only getting better. Chicago is Chicago, so I guess I'm not going to hold out my hope there. But I'm really excited for the Packers' fall from grace. I'm excited.
Super Bowl, and down go the Packers. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Love it. Love it.
Yeah,
Grandizer, I don't think I can laugh for a minute straight. But
I kind of feel like it
someday.
might be the North might end up kind of being like the AFC, what is it, AFC East with Buffalo and New England and Miami, where New England just ruled that division for so long. And, it's pretty much Buffalo's to lose at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Miami's trying to make some noise, but
I think Miami would be making more noise. Like today's game, I still think if they have a healthy team and starters and we play the way we did, I think we lose that football game. So I think they're still very good, especially once they get healthy. I think they're going to be good. One other thing that I wanted to mention before we get too far away from special teams, Ryan Wright, ladies and gentlemen, that guy is near the number one pickup we got this offseason at this point, because he's been, I mean, that bomb that he shot with 73 yards when we had ourselves in the end zone, like, this kid's good.
Give Ryan Wright the applause he deserves there.
Well, and I really like Ryan Wright because he's kind of a big boy, and I like that. He looks like he should be up playing like defensive end or something.
Tight end,
Pat McAfee's favorite for that reason.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, he can boom him, man. That's for sure.
But he's, even in, when we were right around the 50 there at the end, he pins him inside the 15. You like to see maybe a little bit better, hang it high and let one of your headhunters go out and catch that ball inside the 5. But he's good at the short, corner kick or the coffin corner essentially, because there's a lot of punters that are out there that can just boom the ball 70 yards. But he's able to turn it on when he needs to and pull it off when he needs to. I mean, we saw the shank, what was it, last week or 2 weeks ago, where he had a pretty bad one. But outside of that, he's been pretty consistent. And when we needed him to produce, he has. So I think it's right now, it looks like we're pretty well set at the punter position too for the first time since maybe like Mitch Berger.
It's great.
Kicker.
It's great when your two favorite teams have the best punter in their respective leagues. You've got Torrey Taylor, Heisman winner soon, right? And then no, not really for Iowa, but then also you got Ryan Wright for the Vikings, who's maybe not quite the best punter yet, but he's pretty close. He's got to be up there for sure right now. But I do like the punters, but man, let's not have to use them 9 times in a game or 10 times or whatever it was by the end. Like, good grief, the 3 and outs, they kept putting that up there. It was 7 at one point. I bet it was more than that by the end of the game. Like, KOC, what are you doing? Like, this defense, like the Dolphins defense, they put up statistics at the beginning of the game. Like, that was not a good defense. Like, I know Xavier Howard was in today, but man, that defense is not that good. Like, and they just could not find answers for most of this game. And they did it when they needed to. Yes. But that is just so concerning to me. Like, I think as they go into the bye week, that is something that needs to be corrected or at least become more consistent of converting those, because if you go 3 and out against a team with a quarterback that's actually good, like Josh Allen, when we go to Buffalo, good luck. Good luck. We saw what that did against Philadelphia on Monday Night Football. That doesn't bode well. So we've got to see more consistency on offense. And yes, we scored 24 points, but it didn't feel like that. and even 24 points, like, that doesn't always win you games in this league as much as we would like it to. There's a lot of high-scoring offenses that we're going to probably even be facing yet, mainly with Buffalo. And then, you got even the Jets, they've shown they can score on offense. So are you able to beat them by 24 points or with 24 points, I should say? But yeah, I mean, there's lots of things to improve. But like we said, we're 5-1. Here we go. Let's see how far that can carry us the rest of the season. There's been other seasons when we started out this well, and obviously we don't want to talk about what ended up happening, but there still needs to be improvement, I think. And I am interested to see if the Vikings decide to take a gander at the trade market here and see what there could be available out there for another corner or another pass rusher or another offensive lineman. I don't know. Offensive lineman, probably not, because of the way Bradbury had been playing up to this point until this week. But I don't know. Maybe another receiver. Maybe they bring in OBJ. I don't know. I think you need, if you really want to go and give yourself an opportunity to win multiple playoff games, and I know this is supposed to be a competitive rebuild, but this team is not going to win multiple playoff games with this current roster construction, I don't believe.
Well, and I'll just jump in here. Sorry, Tony, because I'm going to probably have to get going here shortly to do some dad duties. But onto the offense, one thing I wanted to touch on there before we get to my thoughts on free agency, trade market. I do think during the game, and maybe you guys did or didn't notice this too, but when plays are coming into Kirk and he's running them, that's when things aren't fluid. to me, it's when Kirk starts calling audibles, changing plays at the line because he's reading defense. I thought that's when we started to pick up a little momentum and we started to put together drives because he was able to, in his head, design basically, what he wanted to see on the field. So I'm loving that they're giving him that ability. They're letting him change the call at the line if he sees something different. And I think that's really leading to some nice things on offense. So I hope to see that grow. Obviously KOC is not going to let him get full reign on it. But it's nice to see that is working if we need it to, because in scrambled, 2-minute offense, stuff like that, we've been fire this year. We've been really good. Yeah. And that's when Kirk is basically calling the play on the fly. I know they have preset plays, but for the most part, he's calling that at the line as they move along. So that's just really nice. My thoughts on trades. Yeah, I don't think we're going to go at an offensive lineman unless we see a major injury. I think if we did do anything, yeah, you could maybe sign OBJ, but I think he's going to try and go bigger market, with a team that really sits on top and has a shot to win, because why wouldn't you if you're him at this point? But I do like the idea of maybe going after a corner. I think if we're going to do something there, I think that's our hit, because not only is it important to bolster it, but I think if we get an injury at the cornerback position, we're really suffering. I mean, Cam Dantzler has actually played pretty well, even though at times he looks still a little shaky. Patrick Peterson's playing phenomenal. But if he goes down and we have to put Cam Dantzler on their number one for a whole game, it might be a different story. So if I'm going to see a trade be made by the Vikes, I think that's where it's going to be, is in the secondary.
And I know I don't know the snap counts of the defensive players, but where was Andrew Booth Jr.? Wasn't he active today? He was supposed to be.
Yeah, he was active.
Like, why are we holding back by keeping out there Chandon Sullivan? Like, he has not been good at all. Like, there's no reason why you should keep him in there. Like, I mean, the only thing is maybe he's not giving up a big play but at the same time, even the small plays turn into big plays with this defense, the way things have been going. But yeah, I would like to see more Andrew Booth Jr. in there. But
my theory on that is I think they probably had him active, but I would hedge to bet they probably felt like, unless something goes really sideways, might as well just give him another week to rest from rehab, because we have the bye week next week. So I bet they probably treated him kind of like how the Dolphins treated Teddy, where, Teddy probably could have played, but just being cautious with the injury, they started Skyler. Then obviously they saw he was active because Teddy ended up having to play. But that's my theory with Booth, is they probably just wanted to give him another week.
Yeah. Anything else you wanted to add there? Yes.
Well, I was just going to say, especially to your point, Tony, especially against a third-string quarterback at that point, why rush him back? Chandon has been shaky in the pass game, but in the run game, he's been okay. So if he's in there as kind of that mixed linebacker corner position, coming off the edge, it's not a bad guy to fill a hole for a week. Like I say, give Booth another week. And we still don't know what we have in him either. Maybe he's not flashing the way that they want to see coming out of his, for his rookie year. So maybe there's just some work to be done too. Time will tell. Everything was good coming out of the draft. And, I think he looked pretty good at mini camps, but we'll see on the pro field, actually when he gets out there, how good this kid really is.
Very good. Well, Daniel, hey, we'll let you go. Get your dad duties out of the way, and appreciate you joining. Hopefully we get you on some more, man.
All righty. Thank you, guys. Have a great week, and Skol Vikes.
Skol Vikes.
Go, sir. Skol.
Skol Vikes. Absolutely. Well, Tony, obviously, like I said, it's good to get the win, but, man, it's frustrating at times. Like I said, with being 5-1 shouldn't be so frustrating, should it? Like, can it be more like the Bills? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. It certainly has been, I don't want to say a grind, because a grind kind of implies negativity, and I'm all about the positivity. So, yes, we're 5-1. I have to feel great about that. But if we're being honest about everything and honest with ourselves, certainly I would have liked to see more games that were definitively won versus these kind of late game, one-score games. So at the end of the day, I'm happy where we're at. I certainly am excited, in a weird way, excited for us to go into this bye. Not because I don't want to watch Vikings football. there will be very much sadness on Sunday when there is no Vikings football. But I'm happy for the team. I think it gives us an opportunity to not only get healthy, which is what the great part about what the bye week is for, but I think more than anything, I'm looking to see the coaching staff get together, take this next week to evaluate everything that we've done offensively, defensively, special teams, and really just to evaluate what we can do differently going forward. Because as we've said on this show, however many times, I think we very much have not scratched the surface even of what this, especially the offense, can do. So I'm looking for them to go into this bye week. I'm excited to see how we look coming out of the bye week. I know it'll be a good test against Arizona, but I'm certainly excited for it. Even though I will miss our Vikings this next week.
Yeah, well, let's take a look at the schedule here. Obviously, getting that first win against Green Bay, losing the Monday Night Football game, 24-16 today. 4 straight one-score wins, which, again, we'll take it. But what are these? Let's look at these remaining games. Like, I know Arizona, like, everybody's kind of down on them, but they almost did beat Philadelphia last week. Buffalo is Buffalo. Dallas has been outstanding defensively, and Cooper Rush just keeps winning games. He doesn't know how to lose, apparently, until maybe tonight. Against New England, you never know. Zappy, is he the next coming of Tom Brady? I don't know. Too soon for that. But New York Jets winning 2 consecutive games, beating the Dolphins even worse than when we beat the Dolphins. And then, of course, beating Green Bay today. So, I mean, looking at these, I mean, Washington is Washington. I think that's probably the easiest remaining game on the schedule, to be honest. And then you're probably looking at Detroit. Well, no, probably Chicago and then Detroit. Yeah, the rest of the schedule does not look all that easy, in my opinion. I think a lot of people, just because it's at home think it's a win, but we've seen these games be close at home too, and one play being the difference in this game. What are these games that you're kind of looking at on this schedule where you're kind of like, I don't know about this?
Yeah, I mean, I think until this is going to be kind of a cop-out answer here, but until I see this team really just, take another team to task, all of them. I mean, all of them make me a little worried because we haven't shown that we can take a team that we, deem inferior and really just, kind of take care of them without much of an issue. So until I see that, honestly, I go into every week going, is this the week where we either, show them what we've got, or is this the week where we, kind of let that 1-score lead go and we can't make up for it at the end? So I don't know. I mean, there's a few certainly I feel better about than others. I think the Arizona game people will overlook a little bit because I believe with the bye week, that'll be D-Hop's first game back.
Yeah. Yeah, DeAndre Hopkins. I do remember that. Yeah, him being back. Boy, another receiver that could just absolutely wreck the Vikings defense. Not that that's saying much these days, but I will say I am happy Harrison Smith made some plays today. He hasn't been grading out very well on PFF, which I know some people will take that with a grain of salt, but he has not been grading well there, and today he came up with 2 huge plays. Whether or not the Vikings scored on that interception, as much as I would have liked to see him score, he made the play as close as it was to hitting the ground. He made the interception, and then he stripped the ball at the end of Jalen Waddle. Like, that was the difference in the game, and Cam Bynum took it down the other way. And if the Vikings don't get a turnover there again, he's kind of like last week where they got the turnover there at the end. Like, boy, what kind of conversation are we having here if the defense doesn't make that play at the end of the game? So thank you, Harrison Smith, for a couple of nice plays today. So appreciate that. But yeah, go ahead if you guys are watching, want to comment on any of these games. Obviously, the Bills game's probably the most scary on the remaining schedule, but what are some other sneaky games that you're kind of thinking like, okay, this is going to be a tough game? Like, I think honestly, the only three games that, and I say this with a grain of salt, the only three games that I think are easy, or at least should be easy, are the Commanders, the Lions, and the Bears. But I really do have a little bit of an issue with putting the Lions in there, because I do think the Vikings are going to lose two of the remaining three division games. I really do. I just have that. I just predicted that, I guess, at the beginning of the year, 4-2 kind of. I thought they'd go in the division. So I'm going to probably stick with that. And I'm going to say they're going to probably lose at Detroit and at Green Bay. And then, or they could potentially lose against Chicago, depending on if that game is meaningful for the Vikings or not at that time. Hopefully it's not, and the Vikings are able to go into a bye week or something. But yeah, I do like that these all the Giants, the Jets, those 5 of those 6 games right there after the Buffalo game are at home. I really do like that. I don't think that is a guaranteed win by any means, but I think that's nice to have that, because you're hopefully the home crowd is all fired up and ready to go, and helps spur on the offense and spur on the defense as well. But I could see us going 3-2 in those 5 games. Honestly, I really could. I just don't know. I can't buy into this team going and winning all 5 of those games. I just don't think the way they're winning is sustainable, Tony. I just don't. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I mean, one additional game, just looking at our schedule here, that is a little bit of a testy one, is Indianapolis. Because Indianapolis has not looked great so far this year. I mean, certainly they've had their issues offensively. Defensively, I think they've still been okay, but I mean, the offense has been so bad, it's not enough to cover up. So that's another game I kind of look to. If they continue to struggle, are they going to be the same team at that stage in the season that they are now? Because certainly I think all of us, including myself, expected them to actually be halfway decent this year. Not that Matt Ryan was going to make this huge difference, but they were, I mean, a game away from the playoffs last year with Carson Wentz. So certainly I would say that, most anyone that paid attention to the NFL felt like, Matt Ryan was an upgrade over Wentz. So that's a little bit of a surprise to me. Are they going to be the same team? And then the other aspect is, do you start to think about throwing Green Bay into one of those games where we absolutely should, in quotations, win? Because certainly with them at 3-3, they're not out of it at all, but they certainly haven't looked great. And I'd hedge to say that they've almost regressed over the last few games. And I know they've been losses, so that's easy to say, but certainly not impressive in almost any facet right now. And they're not going against top tier teams. So I would say that might be another game when we get to that stage in the season, where hopefully we can count on that as a potential win, which would just be very weird as a Vikings fan to say.
That would be weird. There is no doubt about that. No doubt about that. But there's a look at the schedule. Yeah, feel free to put your comments in and what you think could be a tough game going forward if you'd like. We are just probably about ready to get out of here. But let's talk about final statements here. Tony, I think we're all happy to have a week where now, obviously we love to watch the Vikings, but it's nice to have a week now where we can just relax. RELAX, relax, right? Like Aaron Rodgers, but not so much relax for him right now. But we can relax. We can kick our feet up. This is the week we can finally kick our feet up, Tony. It may not be in an actual game, but we can kick our feet up and we can watch the rest of the league and get ready for Arizona because, like I said, I don't think that's going to be a give me. I think with Kyler Murray and his mobility, that poses a huge threat to our defense. We even saw before Thompson went out with the injury, he showed off his mobility, what he can do. And we know that Kyler Murray's even better of an athlete than him. So appreciate you, Grandizer, man. You have a good night as well. Maybe the Dolphins will rebound, man. So appreciate you coming in here. But yeah, so I'm glad that we can take this time, couple of weeks off, enjoy it, but be ready to improve. And hopefully Ed Donatel and Kevin O'Connell really look themselves in the mirror here and say, okay, how can we, and I think I said this last week, but how can we go into the final stretch of the season, which it sounds funny because they've only played 6 games, but it is really the final stretch when you think about the bye week here already. And how can you change the complexion of your offense and defense so much so that you're able to, like you said, win some of these games a little more comfortably going forward, or at least not making us have to get our heart rates up every time. That would be nice. But and for other reasons, for the margin of error doesn't have to be so bad, which it felt like it was there for a while until the Vikings were the ones that got the takeaway there in the end. But my final statement is 5-1 feels good. Doesn't feel great, but it feels good. We'll take that, and hopefully the Vikings can continue that momentum, and hopefully they come out of the bye week and look fresh and ready to go for a run. I think this team is going to benefit from the bye week. I really do, because of all the older players on this team, on defense especially, the Kendrickses, the Harrison Smiths, the even Jordan Hicks, he's up there, getting up there in age. Some of these guys, Adam Thielen even, there's lots of older guys, especially defensively. Patrick Peterson on the defensive end as well, and even Zadarius Smith. Daniil Hunter hasn't been great, and he's not that old, but maybe a bye week for him is good too, to maybe get him back on track. But I'm excited for that, and I do think this will help the team, but how much will it help the team? We'll have to wait and see. Tony, your final statement, sir.
Yeah, I think echoing a lot of, or some, at least some, if not a lot of what you said here. We're 5-1. We got to be happy about that. If anybody would have told me at the beginning of the season we were going to start out 5-1, I would have been elated. So I certainly will take 5-1. It feels great to have that in the bag already. They can't take the wins away from us at this point. So I think we're starting from a really great spot. I think this team definitely needs to look within during this bye week to try to figure out how they can make some changes, how they can continue to evolve, both offensively and defensively. And then the last thing I'm going to touch on for this week was, something we talked about was looking at how Miami was defensively coming into this week and kind of what the numbers told us. I think one thing that we can give our Vikings a little bit more of a pass on is I do think that Miami's a pretty good defensive team. I think offensively, they were so good for the first 3 weeks that season that some of those games they got up early and then their defense started to play a bit soft in a way that it was just, hey, let's just try not to, give up any big plays. And so I do think there's an element there where they probably had some, soft defenses or soft defensive schemes they were playing that allowed some more stats. I do think it's probably a better defense than the numbers suggest. Does that mean I wish our offense, or that doesn't mean I wish our offense didn't look better today? But I do think Miami's a pretty good defensive team, and we should definitely feel good about coming out of Miami on the road with a win. Even if it's against Teddy and company, because that is a talented team.
It is indeed. It is indeed. We've got the horn going. Congratulations to your Minnesota Vikings. 5-1. Not the prettiest, but 5-1 is 5-1. As much as we can sit here and complain about things, we'll be happy that it's 5-1. And like I've said before, if they go on and win the Super Bowl, which I don't think is going to happen, but if it's an ugly win, we'll take it. We'll take it. We just won a Super Bowl, man. We want to party with the Lombardi before we die. How about that? How about that?
And we're not going halvesies with anybody.
That's right. There's no halvesies with the Bills. All right. Very good. Well, Tony, appreciate you hopping in here and appreciate all of you for watching, whether live or later on. And make sure to be able to come back to all of our good content here on YouTube throughout the week. We'll have plenty of bye week stuff to get you through. And, of course, we appreciate all the support. If you would like to even support us further by donating to the show, you can Venmo us at Skol Purple Pod. And, if you do have if you do have questions during the bye week, let me get that out there. Please go ahead and send those to our skolpurplepodcast@gmail.com email. And we would love to answer some of your questions over the bye week. What are some things that we should dive deeply into here as we go into the bye week? Let us know. Again, skolpurplepodcast@gmail.com. Or you can find us on social media or comment in the comment section below as well. So once again, really appreciate it. Vikings are 5-1. And as always,
Skol!
Skol.